Welcome back to the channel, guys. Thanks for taking a second to have a talk about fitting and what you should look for when you get fit, right? Any qualified fitter will have a basis of knowledge. It means they are qualified to fit you. It doesn't mean they have a very deep understanding, but they have a strong knowledge of the basic fitting principles. So I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about more a custom fit, things you should hear as you go to somebody who's a more experienced fitter. First off, let's talk about heads. We have the Tour Series, the T-Series Titleist, the T100, the T150, T200, and the T350 here. Now, while you may not think you might see these all in someone's bag, I have almost all four. I have three in my bag. I have in my 7-iron through pitching wedge, 8-iron through pitching wedge, I have the T100, 6 and 7 are the T150, and then I have the T200 in a 2, 4, and 5-iron. And I was really close to hitting this 350 in one of the irons as well. So when you look at heads, it shouldn't be, oh, this is a player's head, I can't use it, right? Testing goes into it. And sometimes maybe you might want the player's head in a pitching wedge or your scoring irons because you think, oh, okay, I don't really need that much forgiveness there. For me, as 7 irons are going almost 200 yards now, I wanted a little bit of forgiveness. So we'll dig further into that in just a second, but let's talk shafts. Now, shafts are really important. There's obviously, the head is a possibility of where it could launch, how far it could go, spins and things, but the shaft is really gonna kind of be the actualizer of that potential. Obviously it'll launch, right? So how high the ball launches with a stiffer shaft depending on the kick points of the shaft and lower spinning shafts, we can decrease peak heights, right? Ideally we want shafts that will land the golf ball on the green with not too much spin, but just enough stopping power. Ladies, I'm usually helping them get more launch. And here's a perfect, for instance, in a ladies fit, whereas a 7-iron might carry 60 yards and roll to 100, I can get them to carry it with the proper shaft 90 yards and then roll 10. So all of a sudden, par 3s become a lot more playable for them. So when we look at shafts, we want to look at 3 sections. You have the tip section, the mid section, and then the butt section. These will all make the club, make the ball fly in a different way. It's golfer dependent. I don't always say that this will for sure do this or this will for sure do that. It's player dependent because you can react to a shaft and change the way you deliver it differently than what I might or another player. So obviously you're going to talk about, I like to talk about, first is going to be flex. That's an easy one. Regular flex, stiff flex, extra stiff. The A flex is for amateur, and then obviously the ladies, or now we're going smarter, really. We're going for swing speeds and even physical capabilities. We're going R, R1, R2, things like that, instead of just, hey, this is a ladies shaft. So we're looking at flex first, then I'll look into weight, right? So once I get flex and I see the person hitting it, I'll start testing out the weights. So a lighter shaft, see how far it carries. I'll check usually with ball speeds. So when I'm checking shafts, I'm looking at what's the efficiency, right? The efficiency of the golfer and the shaft relationship, that will be club head speed. So if your club head speed goes up, I'll pay attention to that. Then if we look at the results and we see ball speed start to go up or even decrease, that's something I will kind of pay attention to and say, okay, we're onto something or we're not onto something. Within that, once we get into the weight category that I'll look into, then I'll look at the flex of the tip of the shaft. How much does that shaft bend? And a really simple example of that could be, it'll be easier for you guys to see on the video. Here is an AMT black shaft. This is a 10C red. AMT stands for ascending mass, so they get heavier as they go from the low irons to the pitching wedge. There you can see that. And then if we go to this one, we can see it flexes more, and it flexes more at the butt end as well as the tip end. These are all pieces that will help you understand why the ball goes in the air. Because if you have enough shaft variety, and you see a fitter who might have enough, well, they might have something with a more active tip, or a tip that's the same, but then the butt end gets stiffer or softer. And all of a sudden you go, oh wow, I'm having a harder time hitting the ball in the air. And in my case, I'm playing these X100 AMT white shafts. These are steel shafts covered in a black paint. But from my 7-iron through pitching wedge, I'm finding that I can't control it the way I want. So I'm going to move to a firmer shaft with a firmer tip and a higher kick point. And a note here to all my ladies, just understand that you should have the same experience that the men do. So don't think this is too much information for you. There should be a nice selection of shafts that represent your swing characteristics, because you have the opportunity with all the shaft manufacturers and what they produce to really dig in and get a fit that is just as extensive as what the guys get. When we're looking at irons, fittings, we should be looking at first the possibility of the head, right? Then we want to start looking at the shaft flex with shaft weight, followed by a tip activity, and then the overall other pieces of the shaft. Sometimes if someone likes an active tip, I might bump them up in weight later with a more active tip, just to throw that in there to see. So you should have a couple of things maybe that a fitter won't share with you, but they know what they're doing, and they might say, hey, I want to try something here. Anyway, these are the things that you should be having a conversation about in your fittings. I hope this helps. I hope this reveals some kind of questioning that you should bring to your fitting as well. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this helped. I hope this gave you a few more ideas of what you should be looking for in a fitting, a way to educate yourselves. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Remember, stay focused and keep practicing.